Hi,
Hello.
I'm Julian.
And I am an exhausted Tom.
We are Team Binge. We are here to talk about Rooster, the finale of season 1, so episode 10. This one was called Songs for Raisins, I believe is how you pronounce that. And Tom, we did it. We got through the season. We ended it. I'd love to get your thoughts on this finale. Honestly, I thought it was a strong finale in terms of the show itself, but when you take the cumulation of where we got to and the conclusion, I'll save my thoughts. Tom, what'd you think of this finale?
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. Like, to your point, like,
It was fine.
that's what classic review. It was fine. No, I feel like I'm with you. Like, they did a good job of laying some groundwork about Beth kind of taking over the presidency or whatever, and then that's what's going to happen next season, or finally giving some conclusion to some characters. But, like, I just found it, like, underwhelming because it was just the flip-floppy back and forth that we saw the entire season. I didn't think the humor was there in this episode. They obviously went heavier for the heart. I think there was one portion where the cop hawk kept screaming at somebody named Sharon. I enjoyed that part. But otherwise, I just didn't. This didn't click for me. The whole series was a bit of a bust, and I was unfortunately a little bit disappointed.
Also disappointed, although there are certainly shining moments. I'm fine that we stuck through with it. There is a part in this episode where they say if they care about the characters, they're in for the ride. This is Greg teaching. And I was like, show, do you understand that we do need to care about the characters? And what I found with this show is I just didn't. Like, at the end of this, they're like, hey, we got everyone together in the diner to celebrate Greg for Greg to leave. And I was kind of like, do these people really care about Greg? I'm trying to think in my life of, like, whose going away party I would have gone to and, like, actually cared. And it's very few people. Like, I don't even like going to people's funerals, you know? Like, I don't know. This was very strange where they're like, give him a speech. I was like, he's going to give a speech. And his speech was all over the place. But anyways, I felt like the show was like, hey, you should care about these people. We're going to play this finale like you care. But for me, it just didn't land because I didn't care. And that's
I think it's fair.
I can
Literally.
put it.
Yeah, it's right in the dialogue. Like I agree. If you want us to care about the characters, you got to like preface and set it up. And outside of the handful of relationships we saw Greg have, like why there was this mountain of people at this like going away party seemed surprising. Maybe it was an open bar. That would be my only guess. But yeah,
that Greg's paying for because Tommy doesn't have any cash. Sure,
it was filthy rich because he's buying everybody's their drinks and stuff. He's buying everybody e-bikes, just loaded with that Rooster cash.
Incredible. Well, let's dive into it, and I do want to really focus on the flippy floppy that you mentioned, the back and forth that happens. What I thought was funny is 2 episodes ago you were like, hey, so we're done with like Katie and Archie. Right, this is the finale. And, like, this is the final time they're gonna go back and forth. Tom, inside this episode they went back and forth about 6 times, so yes, they did not give us what we wanted out of that. But oh, and here's the other thing, they brought Beth back, who is Connie Britton's character, and I just have so many questions on, like, why are you making her unlikable? Why was she acting the way that she was? I don't understand the trinity of Katie, Beth, and Greg, which is how we open this, is Beth is back. It took me a beat to realize what was happening during this. Like, Katie came in mad, and I was like, why is she mad at Greg? And then I was like, oh, she's mad because these two have been pulling the strings. These are parents trying to set their kid up so that she can have some success in life, which is just a terrible thing from a kid. Listen, if my parents walked into the room and were like, listen, man, you don't have to work anymore. Here's $1 billion. I wouldn't be like, no, I want to be my own man. I'd be like, thank you for the $1 billion. Now I'm not talking to you anymore because I'm a billionaire and I have no time for my parents. Like, I don't know. I understand that, like, we want Katie to have agency. The show does. But this all fell flat for me because at no point, other than maybe his handling of Crystal, has Greg ever like given you a moment where you're like, oh, something's wrong with this guy, or like he's done something wrong. I think he's been pretty delightful as a father throughout this show. Correct?
Yeah, and like you can argue there was some of like this behind the scenes stuff that he was doing to try to get her job back, but like we had talked about, I felt like they had open conversation and dialogue, Greg and Katie, about the stuff that did happen behind the scenes. All of this just makes me so frustrated with the Beth character because she seems the one that is really pulling the strings or playing against each other and is just not committed or not wanting to help. Yet Katie doesn't hold her accountable to any of that stuff. It's all Greg's fault, where I feel like she is kind of worse in the situation, but maybe because Katie doesn't expect it from her and expects it more from Greg. I didn't know, but I didn't like how Beth had no accountability in all of this.
Yeah, the show, they sell it very poorly, where they're like, hey, for Beth, the bar is so low that Katie can't get mad at her. But when we're introduced to Beth, Connie Britton, as I will refer to her from now on, as Coach's wife, which I know you love, they're all like, oh, we love her. Like, both Greg and Katie really love her. Well, even in this episode, they like almost backtrack to make her seem worse. Like, during this conversation, she's like, oh, I'm not really listening. Like, I wasn't paying any attention. You're parenting. I'm not even here. She's double booked this family meeting, which the boldness of double booking a family meeting. I wish I would have done that as a child. Like when my dad and mom sat me and my brothers down and they were like, listen, we need to talk about the dog that you'll notice is no longer in the house. And I'm like, oh, I've double booked this with my friends. We're going to go install pegs on our bike and ride around the neighborhood. So can we make this happen? There probably would have been less screaming and crying during the family meetings, but I digress. They made her I almost felt like this was a different character that Connie Britton was playing, and I don't really understand them like wanting to be around her and enjoying her when she's clearly like, no, you guys remember I'm terrible, I'm the bad mom, like, do you remember I'm the career-oriented bad mom? And it's very weird.
Even at the end of the conversation, like, she leaves, and then Katie looks at Greg, is like, I don't know what you ever saw in mom. And it's like, oh, it's confusing what someone that is attractive or hot will make you do. And clearly that's like trying to parallel the whole Archie kind of side of the story. But it's like, again, you have Katie right there saying like, hey, you are not compatible. Like, she, I guess, just has no expectations from her mother because she's never been there, and brings her to these meetings just to throw Greg under the bus, I guess.
Yeah, I did not understand. I felt like we did kind of a U-turn on the Connie Britton character that I did not care about. We have some discussion about meth, which we'll just move on from because I know that is a triggering issue for you. So let's move on. We have Archie teaching, and Archie is, I guess he's supposed to be like lost in his thoughts, and this is supposed to be the moment where he realizes he wants to be with Katie because he gives a speech about Gorbachev and how much he loved his wife. And I was like, cool, thanks for the history lesson. This is where the title of the episode comes from, Songs for Raisin. I guess Raisin Gorbachev was Gorbachev's wife.
Listen, he said there were some bangers in that album, which, you know, had this been maybe a little bit better show that I enjoyed, I might have went and listened to some of those, see if they held up, but I did not. I did not check out Gorbachev's back catalog.
Had we been willing to give this more than the minimal amount of effort, we would have gone and listened to those songs. I'm sure they're great. Once again, I don't want this to be a reflection of Bill Lawrence, who we love and have loved a lot of his stuff. I just feel like, I don't know. It feels like he's got a lot going on, and maybe this was kind of a secondary effort on his part. But we'll never know until he comes on and explains to us what happened. Okay, so ultimately during this lecture, and the students are like, what's going on, man? What's wrong with you? This is then where he realizes he wants to be with Katie. Is that fair? Everything ties back to his Russian studies?
Yes, everything he's kind of bringing up is paralleling his decision and life with Katie and saying like he needs to commit to her. And then, I think he ultimately runs and starts making this declaration to Katie.
Then we have Greg teaching, and this is the moment I talked about earlier where they're like, hey, they'll stick around if they care about the characters. I was like, yeah, noted, show. Please, maybe speak that into the mirror. And we get a lot of It's a Wonderful Life talk, a Christmas movie with...
Yeah, still haven't seen it.
Really? You haven't seen the Jimmy Stewart classic? You should definitely watch it. I would watch the original, not the... There's like an Amazon cut where they take a ton of it out, and it's terrible. Christianity takes a couple of stray rounds during this conversation, which I didn't really appreciate, but these guys are too cool for religion. You know what I mean?
I thought we were going back to the disciplinary board for half a minute.
Yeah. No, Tom. No. You can bash on Christianity. You don't go to the disciplinary board for that. There's a war on Christmas, Tom. They're always coming for us. Anyways, I like that Greg is about to say something profound. Like, here's the other thing. We're supposed to believe in this episode that these kids and like teaching has really had an effect on him. But I mean, I guess he had that lecture with Katie where he was like, listen, like, you really got to care about your students. But I just don't feel like any of this is paid off in any profound way. That I don't know. It just didn't land. So
well, and there's a single student that we've seen Greg like mentor and Tommy. Like outside of giving all the other kids their grades, like why are they showing up at this going away party? Like why would I don't care about any of my professors. No offense, they did a great job of teaching me back in college, but I'm not going to their going away party. It's just weird.
No, not at all. I honestly, during this episode, I had two moments of like, there's no way the show has the guts to do that. There are moments where like Tommy's like, hey, Mr. Russo, you're the best, like, you're my new dad, you're the best guy. And I expected him to like leave the room and get hit by a bus and us to be like, no, not Tommy. And then the other one that I'm really glad they didn't do, although it might have been compelling, is Dylan's like, hey, I'm really glad we didn't have relations. And I was like, don't do it, show. Don't like go back on that and then make them a romantic just for the finale. I was like, that's so killing Tommy and then putting Greg and Dylan in some sort of relationship. I was scared for and they didn't do. In fact, all we got from Tommy is that this is like the last day of school and he still hasn't turned it. Are there deadlines in college anymore? Can you just, my kid, we got a message for, he's in middle school. They're like, hey, you can't take the final early, but you have 2 weeks after school ends in order to make it up. And I was like, I'm sorry, 2 weeks into the summer, I'm supposed to send my kid back to school so he can finish he's just going to do it, but I don't know. There's no deadlines anymore, Tom. Academia's really suffered.
That's incredible. I also don't understand this bit where Tommy doesn't turn in his paper now just so he can turn it in like a scene later at the library. Like, what was the purpose of that outside of that little library joke where he's like yelling in the room and people tell him to be quiet? I didn't understand why he doesn't turn in his paper here. There was no dramatic effect. I'm like, oh, okay, he's not turning his paper, so he's going to forget about it and he's going to have to fail him. But it's going to
be like the end of the episode. He comes in, turns it in, Greg reads it, and it's like, oh, this is amazing stuff. Like, it's the same thing when Katie marches out on Archie later in the episode. Rather than giving us any moment of her, like, it's like a quick cut to another scene, and then immediately he finds her in her lecture hall and is like, Katie, you can't just leave like that. There's like no time between those moments in order for us as an audience to like take a beat to process it. It's just like, oh, we're going to resolve this now, but we gave you a shortcut in between. So I'm with you. Listen, I'm not an editor. You're not an editor. But there seems to be something in the show. And we've had other times where we've talked about it, where it's like, wait, is it night? Is it day? How much time has elapsed between these two things? I don't know. But we do get a fun scene with Mo, Sonny. I enjoyed Mo in this episode. I'm not going to lie. Mo did more than she typically does, which is great. Mo gets a B, and she's complaining about it. And having Sonny and Archie both be like, listen, I'm sure it feels terrible. I've never personally gotten a B, but I'm sure it just feels really bad. And Archie being like, I'm sure it makes you feel more human. I thought this was very funny. This was a great scene.
Yeah, some of their back and forth was pretty good. It's like, it's okay to be average to Mo. And yeah, I mean, what's a big deal? It's a B. But of course, the hoity-toityness of Archie just has to shine. Also, later on, Tommy's like, I passed, or maybe we've already talked about it, but Tommy's like, oh, I passed all of my other classes. He got a D in one? I didn't think a D was passing. Is D passing, Tom? I don't know.
This will tell you how smart you and I are. We never considered whether or not a D was passing. A couple of brainiacs on this podcast, folks. If you've got questions about the world, you can email us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. Life's certainly gone well for us. We're talking about this show in the middle of the day when we should be doing our real jobs. let's go. Okay, there's a quick cut with Archie and Katie, and this is where Archie's like, hey, Katie, let's do this. And he's like, may I kiss you? And is this immediately where she's like, no, I can't do this? I don't even remember this. There's so much back and forth with these two that I lost the plot. Like, I don't know where they're going.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, may I kiss you? And then she's like, it's weird when you ask me to do that. And I'm like, well, isn't that kind of like counterproductive? Like where, women shouldn't be just kissing people at random. They probably should ask for the permission kind
Tom,
of a thing.
This is his wife, so he's allowed to. Once you've entered a marriage, although he has impregnated another woman, so maybe in the return you have to ask. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It seemed like goofy dialogue, but yes, this is their reconnecting, and they're like, okay, cool. Katie, you confessed your love, and now Archie is reciprocating, and now they're going to go
Done.
up.
These two are going to be together forever. Thank you, show. Done. Like, you nailed it. We appreciate you. All right. Let's talk Greg and Dylan. Once again, they just give me more Dylan and Greg. I found this very charming. We get a little bit more backstory from Dylan, where her dad was super disappointed when she decided to switch from law to poetry. And Greg's like, oh, I can do that disappointed dad voice. And he does it. And she's like, you're all the same. I thought that was very funny,
Yeah, good.
And then interrupted by, as you pointed out, Tommy turning in his assignment. And we get Dylan's confession. She's like, hey, it's been really nice to have someone like you around to talk to. I'm glad we did not have relations, so we didn't complicate this relationship. They're buds. They're both e-bike people now, or soon to be. All of this topped off by him pulling out his new book, which is written by a female character's perspective. And the bosoms on the lady on the cover are so large that we couldn't put her head on the cover. And this causes Dylan to call Ronnie over. I love this. I thought this was so funny. Just like the misogyny, all of it, and how like Greg's like, listen, I don't have a choice in the cover. I loved all this. I thought this was very funny.
It was obviously played for comedy in this show, but like, in what world is this possibly going to be the cover art for a book from a female character's perspective? Like, just completely objectifying, and like even the bit we get later where Ronnie's like, "Oh, I did read it, and it was actually pretty good." Like, okay, great, but like, what are we supposed to take from it as an audience?
Tom, I don't think you pick up enough books, my friend. If you go to my Kindle right now. Because Amazon is the type of company that it is. When you're not reading your Kindle, ads pop up on the front of it, and they just like float in and out. So like right now, I'm reading an incredible book about the Italian campaign in World War II. All history. The ads that are popping up on the cover of my Kindle are this buff dude who's all tatted up and he's shirtless and he's just like super cut. And it's like, hey, I'm a vampire and he's my one weakness, is like the thing that shows up on my Kindle, which I don't know what that says about my algorithm. I swear to you, I'm just reading World War II books. But I don't have a problem with those covers going both ways. I guarantee there are some female covers that are just out there in the world. So I would say, when you say in what world, I would say, Tom, this world, this very world we live in.
Okay,
and I believe this book was called like Alligator Boots, which I don't know. Just so, is this now a female detective? Is that what he's tried to be progressive? So he's written a female detective character.
I guess. What, her name is Hen, I guess.
That's nice. I don't like what you did there. It took me a beat. I don't like what you did there. All right. Anyways, I plan on reading Alligator Boots between you and I.
Okay.
Let's move on to Katie talking to the TA, and I believe Zoe, if I remember this character. I don't remember the TA's name. I'm sorry, show. But it's your fault. And she is in this moment explaining to them that, hey, I'm not going to be around. I'm headed to London because Archie and I are going to make another go.
Yeah, and she like mentions later on like how she was talking to her friends. Like, so are these her close friends, this TA and student of hers? Like,
no idea, Tom.
She doesn't have
no
any
idea.
other sort of friend group to be able to kind of go to. But this is all we've been introduced.
At one point, it was her and Dylan were super close, and they were talking, but nope, not in this one. In this one, we have the person that works for her and the person whose paper she grades, and those are her friends. So, Once again, I did not have these relationships with my professors, so I did not know you could be friends with them. I did not know they were humans. I did not know that they had life outside of the lecture hall. But I guess in this moment, she's realizing like how disappointed she is in herself. I don't know.
She wants essentially like validation from her friends here that like, hey, I'm doing the right thing, and they even kind of like she says it again, and then they say this is a stupid decision, but they joke and laugh around about it. Like, this is clearly a bad decision, and the friends, if they're actually friends, should be calling her out on it and not making jokes. But here we are.
I don't know, Tom. If you love someone, you never have to say you're sorry. You know what I mean? Sure. That's something I heard once. I think it's probably true. I never apologize. Ask my wife. She's always mad about it. Anyways, but I don't apologize. I'll tell you that right now. All right, let's go to... It's fine. She doesn't listen. All right. To this podcast, I should say. I'm the one that doesn't listen in our relationship. All right. Let's move on. There we go. All right. So
keep going. Let's dig in a little bit deeper.
Let's dig that hole. She's like, why do you have a copy of Alligator Boots on your nightstand, Julian? I'm sorry. All right, let's move on. We have Walt, Crystal, and Greg talking. And we didn't do enough with Walt in this episode, especially because I think some of the emotional payoff is him at the end. But it's like essentially everyone's mad at Greg for leaving. But this was always a temporary role. Why would we be mad at Greg? None of you have really, I don't know, welcomed him wholeheartedly, Walt. You've just like, I don't know, made him obligated to certain things he didn't want to be obligated to. But all of this leads to Archie walking in. The insults from Greg to Archie are just incredible. When he's like, listen, the way that you talk is the reason why people hate you. It's just such a solid thing to say someone's face. And Archie just like swim moving by all of them, unbothered. I wish I had this relationship with my father-in-law. Instead, when he cuts me, it cuts deep and I still cry about it, but it is what it is. And this all leads to Archie explaining that, hey, we're going to have to mend some fences because Katie and we're back together.
Yeah, and again, like their dynamic back and forth was always very good because both Carrell and Dunster are fantastic and they play off each other well. His like Archie's whole comment about like biting some bullets and throwing them in his mouth and chewing them and like all that back and forth.
Incredible mime work.
Yeah, it was solid, but we don't get enough of that back and forth with those two here.
I agree. We cut from there, and we have Greg and Beth talking, and he is very upset that Archie and Katie are getting back together, and Beth is like trying to stop him from calling Greg because early in the episode he promised not to intervene, which I don't know. Is this... I guess he agreed not to let her do meth, but did he agree to let her not to go back to her cheating husband? I don't know. And then Beth's like, let's get drunk instead. Alcohol is most certainly the answer in most cases, but I don't know if it's the right answer in this case, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Beth pushing back at him, saying like, hey, you promised to do this thing in the morning at breakfast time, but yeah, I don't know. I guess this was just did Greg grow? Is he not going to now try to butt into her life when I would argue he probably should, but...
See, I disagree with the premise that a parent should never, like, intervene. I do think there are moments where maybe a little bit of outside perspective is appreciated. But let's continue them, because we cut to Archie and Sunny, but before we go to that, let's stay with Greg and Beth, because this is then they start drinking... the funny bit is they've got the mascot head. She's wearing the mascot head, which apparently is named Bluey. Is that true?
I did see a banner at one point in the background that says like Home of the Blues. So I guess the Blues is technically like the school mascots, and then they call this guy Bluey. But hashtag not my Bluey.
Not my Bluey
from Australia.
Either. Yeah, I agree. Which my kids are on the verge of aging out of Bluey, and it's a little bit sad, Tom. Yeah, I'm assuming this guy was not a Confederate soldier. He was in a blue uniform, so he was probably part of the Union. Be weird in this day and all this liberal college was really rooting for the Confederates. But all of that funny. She's like, it does not smell good inside here. And I do appreciate that Greg is just collecting items from this campus. He's got a little bit of a klepto in him where he's like stealing roosters and stealing mascot heads. And he's like, by Viking law, they're mine now because I've stolen them, which is all great.
Yeah.
In this conversation, Beth is like, and this is, I don't know that I would marry or enjoy being around a person that's like, oh, I just do what makes me happy. And it's like, is that how we should all live our lives? Even if it's at like someone else's expense, is our happiness above that? I don't think so. Although I say that, but I'm just doing whatever I want to do out here. You know what I mean, Tom? She then puts a picture of herself on the wall that's from like Fortune magazine. And then despite the fact that she is the one that broke up their marriage by cheating on him, she has the gumption to like come on to him. And I was very glad that he rejected her. But this is all just like, okay, remember how Connie Britton was kind of charming in those other episodes? Not anymore. Like, we just want her to be I don't know. I didn't like her in any of this. And I didn't understand what they were doing.
They're just making her kind of just a jerk and an a-hole of a character to do this and try to manipulate, because we heard her talk to Katie in the previous episode that she was going to do this, and here is her actually attempting it. And then she backtracks by saying, like, oh, I'm just teaching you a lesson, and this is how you need to not butt into Katie's life. Like, I hated all of it, and I'm certainly glad Greg didn't like reciprocate this, because he's seemingly in a little bit better place as a character. And yeah, Connie Britton was just a bad character. I don't like her.
Yeah. Well, yeah, once again, we've talked about the U-turn on her. And then this is cut with one of the more poignant moments of the episode, which is Archie sitting down behind his desk, which I thought was weird. He's like, come in, student. Let me sit behind my desk while I break up with you. And he tells Sonny he wants to stay with Katie. And like, I don't know. I've become more sympathetic to Sonny, even though she had an affair with a married professor, which I guess happens. But I have always been a staunch, once you marry someone, you have to die with them. So I'm on record, Tom. But I appreciated them giving Sonny some agency, where she's like, you're making the wrong choice. I didn't really like her being like, oh, but if you want me, like, be ready to fly to Wisconsin. And I was like, I'm not rooting for Katie, I'm not rooting for Sonny, and I'm certainly not rooting for Archie. So I don't know what we're supposed to want in this episode of television, Tom.
Well, when she says that specifically, like, "I'll be at my apartment at 8," I'm like, well, okay, so you know that's going to come into play. I was like, why would a character say that? And we find out at the end that, he ultimately does kind of come back, but he comes back too late. To me, that line almost took any of this emotional weight out of it, because then now we know, at least I thought I knew, which turned out to be true, that Katie was going to break it off with Archie, and this is going to be like his quote-unquote fallback plan, which is just terrible and bad for Sonny. And I agree with Sonny's sentiment, like he's making the wrong choice here and could have started a new life with her and their soon-to-be baby. But I don't know where this takes us for season 2 and why I would continue to care for Archie's character outside of him just being generally kind of funny on the show. I don't know where he would fit in season 2.
Yeah, exactly. He's funny, but he's not likable. And also, I don't know. I have a mental block. I would appreciate this like love triangle more if there wasn't a baby, because in my mind, I just feel bad for that child whose now father is, essentially rejecting the mother and is going to be a part-time dad. And, I don't like that they did that. So I don't know. I literally wrote in the outline, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel, Tom. Tell me how I'm supposed to feel. Sad, mad, happy, erotic. What am I supposed to feel, Tom?
Disappointed. I think that's the word of the pod.
And in the end of the show's like, hey, like, no one's going to be happy. Like, Sonny's gone. Archie didn't pick either. Well, Archie's like picked both and got neither. And then Katie's gone. And it's like, okay, stop doing the like back and forth if ultimately everyone's just going to be on their own in the end, Well, and it's like, although we all die alone, Tom. That's fair.
It's like it wants us to make us feel good for Katie because she ultimately came to this decision. But I would argue she treated Archie terribly. Like, she has some blame here where she kept pushing him on and off and like hooking back up with him and then saying I'm all in, only to 36 hours later, whatever she says, I'm out again. Like, she was being manipulative and not a great person to Archie and all of this too. Yet we're a show watcher supposed to like take her side in all of it.
That's fair. Ultimately, the person that's responsible for all of this, Tom, is Greg. That's who. Exactly. He's the bad guy in all of this. All right, let's go from the relationship drama to Tommy and Greg. Tom, wouldn't you know it, we find out that Tommy's a great writer. The chapter's just the best thing that Greg's ever read. Incredible. Just, I don't care. I don't care.
I loved it this bit. So, like, yeah, eventually we get Greg getting the invite from Tommy. Like, hey, you want to see the diner? Say goodbye. See the guys. He's like, oh, yeah, cool, I'll go. And then as, like, Tommy's, like, walking out of the room, the show does, like, the slow-mo on Tommy as he's walking through the hallway playing the inspirational music. I thought he was going to, like, jump up in the air and do, like, a fist bump. It was just so, like, corny and cheesy that, like, he's been officially mentored, I guess. So he's got to have his little slow walk.
Yeah. I think it's funny that they made Tommy out to be like a joke and like a frat guy. I just didn't feel like that character paid off in terms of, like, am I super happy that he passed a class with a D and that he wrote one good chapter? Tom, we can all write one good chapter. I mean, I wouldn't because I don't have the time, but any of us could, if we had the Rooster coaching us and mentoring us. But yeah, no, I there was the same cut for me. And I was like, what are we celebrating? That he's not tripping as he walks down the hall? What's happening here?
This episode is brought to you by Netflix's Remarkably Bright Creatures. What if a Pacific octopus held the key to a mystery that could heal your heart? Well, that's Tova's reality. An elderly widow working at an aquarium. Tova forms an unlikely friendship with the curmudgeonly Marcellus, whose remarkable intelligence leads her to a life-changing discovery. Remarkably Bright Creatures is now playing, only on Netflix.
Tom, the downfall of this married couple is spinach in the teeth. What is happening here? This is just her like finding something and realizing how like over him she is. Why?
Well, to do it over something like so weird and superficial, and like they were played clearly for comedy of him like trying to get it out and he can't get it in there, just making it worse. Like I didn't even find it very funny. And then when she says like I can't be with you, I was like, oh my show. Like I just put my hands in the air and I could not believe this is the catalyst. Like maybe it was some shallow comment he made, but no, it's literally spinach in the teeth.
I spit out my spinach salad that I was eating while watching, and I was like, I cannot believe this is so dumb. And then my wife looked at me and she said, you don't have any spinach in your teeth, but I want a divorce. And I was like, oh, that hurts. So,
but you weren't listening, so I was like,
but I wasn't listening. So she repeated it later, and that's when I heard her.
She wrote it down.
Yeah, exactly. She emailed it to me at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. Attention, Julian. I don't know. And her reasoning is she's like, you'll always be you. Let's start with, hey, you had an affair and you got another woman pregnant. Like, I think, listen, I don't like question Katie's motivation for wanting this divorce, but I question the journey that we took to get here, Tom. That's what I question. Exactly.
I'm with you. Yeah, it's all the things that are being said once again are things that have been said in episode 2.
Yep.
And here we are again. And again, it's all just everything that I guess has happened beforehand has been manipulated by Greg, is what the show wants us to say. And then this is the only time that she, as Katie, as a character, has made this decision herself. So we're supposed to feel great about it.
Hey, can I ask you a question? We should have talked about this earlier in the show. But do you think the Jamie Tart role, like, colors your opinion of Archie in this show? Do you think, like, that arrogance and, like, childishness, like, selfishness that he had in that character is, like, accumulated in this one? Like, I know he does some dumb things in this particular show, but do you feel like the Jamie Tart of it all has just like multiplied that. I'd be interested to hear from people that didn't watch Ted Lasso, and this is the first exposure to Phil Dunster. Am I saying it right? Is it Dunster?
Yeah,
Dunphy?
Dunster.
Phil Dunphy from Modern Family. I'd be interested to hear from people, like, if this is your first experience with him, as if he was as, like, obnoxious and arrogant and annoying in this show, or if because we kind of knew his character arc from Ted Lasso, whether or not it colored it a little bit. Does that make sense?
It does. I feel like it's a little bit of both for me. Like he tones down the accent a little bit in this show, but he still is obviously a little bit more educated, but he's still kind of like the bumbling buffoon and jerk that he was, at least in the early seasons of Lasso. So I think going into it, I certainly had that mindset of him, and at no point did he ever change my mind in terms of him being a better or nicer character. And granted, that's kind of how it was in Lasso. It took him 3 seasons to have a turn and have a good arc. But if the show comes back in season 2 and then tries to have him, we pick up 6 months later and he's coming back from rehab and he's making himself a better person, like, great. But I don't think any of it is going to be earned.
What kind of rehab, Tom? Is he coming back from like a fair rehab? Is this like
I don't know.
Is this like an addiction to, I don't know, making love to people? Is that a thing? Can you be addicted to making love to people?
Russian literature rehab.
Oh, God. Nice. Ultimately, Katie has decided it's divorce time, and they do this whole shot in the cool kind of lecture hall, which I enjoyed looking at all that wood paneling, and I just thought to myself, who put that together? Is that real wood, or is that like fiberboard with just some like inlay over the top? I don't know. Anyways, let's move on. Greg leaves Dylan a scooter, which lovely gesture. I was a little bit afraid that Dylan was going to come out the door and this was going to lead with him going into her house, but the show was nice enough not to do that.
Yeah, this dude's just like the Oprah Winfrey of scooter gifting.
Ugh.
Everybody gets a scooter.
You get a scooter. You look under your chair. There's a scooter. You get a scooter. Your chair's a scooter. Anyways,
for those of you listening to the podcast while you're driving, look under your car. There's a scooter.
No,
Wait,
please
if
don't
there's a scooter
do
under your car,
We're definitely
then
gonna get
stop.
sued now, Tom. Come on. All right. Everyone's at the diner to see Greg off. Cool, I guess. I don't know.
Surprise. Why? Yeah. Everybody. Free drinks. That's what I'm going for.
Golly. The time it would have taken me to come up with an excuse not to go to that diner. If someone's like, hey, our teacher that's been here for half a semester is leaving and we're going to see him off, I would have been like, oh, I've got a video game that I haven't started, don't know if I like, but I've definitely got to play it this evening. I will not be going to the diner, especially because it's 0 degrees outside. No, thank you. But once again, there's supposed to be some sort of emotional payoff here that I just did not feel. And I'm an emotional guy, Tom. I'm a raw nerve. I feel everything, and just didn't feel it. All right, so after Katie decides a divorce, we have Archie rush over to... I just appreciated Mo delivering this news so gleefully. She's like, oh, you made it. Oh, wait, we got her an earlier flight, you jerk. I loved Mo's vindictive attitude. We are all Mo, Tom, a little bit inside. There are two wolves inside of me, and one of them's Mo. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, she was playing the audience in this scene, just to stick that dagger a little bit further into Archie's back. I loved it.
Loved it. Quick cut, the diner party. Ronnie's like, hey, by the way, I didn't hate your book, which, I don't know, what's the payoff there? Like, that Ronnie is like, I guess not everything you wrote is dribble? I don't know. Like, Ronnie's making strides to being more...
She's growing too. She's growing as a character to like Rooster's writing.
To like Rooster's bosomy writing. I didn't really understand that at all. And then Tommy's like, Greg or Rooster, you changed my life. And I was like, all right, cool, man. I don't. Once again, how did he change his life? He's still in college. If Greg would have been like, hey, I'm going to put your, excuse me, I'm getting choked up just thinking about this. If Greg would have been like, hey, Tommy, I'm going to get this chapter in front of my publisher, I'd be like, okay, you've changed his life. But I guess just because he gave him purpose to stay in school, like, I don't know. I'm not sold that Tommy's not going to quit school next semester, Like, I don't know.
There's a lot more steps that are going to happen.
Golly.
I mean, yeah, he could have been a cop. He could have been Cop Hawk's number 2. He could have been Cop Falcon, but no,
Deputy Cop Hawk would have been incredible,
Great spin-off show. Now, speaking of Kapok, this was I had a couple giggles throughout the episode. This is one where I actually did laugh out loud, where he's like, Kapok's going to talk to Greg, and he's like, hey, man, I got a friend that doesn't think that she knows, or that I know you, or whatever. And then, like, we think he wanted a quick little video or picture, but then he goes the full, F you, Sharon, don't you tell me who I know and don't know. That was great. I loved one more Kapok outburst.
Yeah, no, it was great. Very funny. This was the sheer violence that came out of him out of nowhere was great. But yes, more, once again, more Dylan, more Kapok. I could have used it all. Katie arrives mid-speech from Greg, which I do appreciate Dylan forcing him to have a speech. This is like a nightmare of mine, but Greg is like, in this speech, hey, I've got a wonderful daughter. Cool. That's very nice. And then he's like, for those of you that don't know, like, I'm super awkward and comfortable. And I was like, have we seen that? He's a pretty personable guy. He's like giving people advice. I didn't understand. Once again, the premise of the show was he was supposed to be like a downtrodden dude or awkward and uncomfortable. And he like develops into Rooster. And we see this growth. I didn't see it, Tom. That's not what we were given, right?
Yes, I agree. Like, outside of going to the disciplinary board a handful of times for some questionable reactions and responses to his students, like, yeah, I didn't.
Mild.
I'd
say they were mild. I would judge them as mild, Tom.
But I would assume this was the speech he wanted to give to his students in the last day of class, like outside of, calling out Katie for being lovely, that he didn't get to make. So I like how they tease it in the earlier part of this episode to have him then give a speech now.
It would have been very funny if they give us one scene of him holding up alligator boots in front of the disciplinary board and him having to explain that cover to them, but they did not. All right, we end with Katie and Greg doing a little campus journey, a little
classic walk and talk. Yeah.
Sorkin came in and wrote this scene, and Katie explained.
It was a beautiful scene, by the way, because it was like snowing. It was lovely.
Yeah, no, it was definitely lovely. Precipitation falling from the sky is something that I've heard of. I've heard of, but I've never seen or witnessed in my life. Not in this beautiful state that we live in, where it's 100 degrees today. 100 exactly. Katie tells Greg, hey, I ended it. Archie and I are done. Greg is like ecstatic. He does a little dance. And then in this moment, she's like, you don't have to leave. And I was like, Katie. You cannot tell him all season that he's like encroaching on your life and that you don't want him around and that you're happy for him to leave, only in this moment to be like, oh, don't leave. I feel like Katie's arching Greg, like, hey, I want you, I don't want you. This, I don't know.
Season 2 is going to be the exact same plot of her getting mad that
right.
He's there again.
Why are you around? Yeah. Which we have a lovely call. Greg calls Walt, and he's like, hey, man, what would you say if I wanted to stay another semester? And Walt's like, that's great. And then we get I don't know, it wasn't really, it should have been a punch to the gut because I do care about Walt. And I see what the show did, and I actually liked this. But we spent so little time with Walt, and like Archie and Katie was this kind of storyline that this show made like the A storyline, I would say, which I did not care about. Like the Walt needing this job and like him and Greg, we had maybe 1.5 episodes of the two of them kind of bonding and spending time together. I don't know. This didn't really hit me in the same way. And also, it's just another reason why, like, Beth is terrible in the terms of she's come in and, like, isn't she a CEO running a company? Why is she going to part-time be the president of this university? I don't know, Tom. You've always had a problem with strong female leads running universities. Go ahead. I mean, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, I didn't like. I liked this as a placeholder in like a cliffhanger for season 2.
Sure.
We're kind of coming in and now creating this dynamic because I would imagine Walt's going to fight for his job, and Greg is going to fight for Walt as well, and probably less so for Beth. But I mean, I don't know. Like maybe we're going to write where like Greg falls back in love with Beth, and she manipulates him, and that's season 2 of like him getting manipulated, similar to how Katie was manipulated by Archie. Like I don't know, but. it wasn't my favorite finish. And with you, like they didn't give Walt enough agency in this last episode or last handful of episodes to have this kind of hit, I think, as hard as it could have.
Exactly. And Tom, as you watch season 2, I look forward to you sending me summarized AI emails on what takes place, because
you're out.
At this point, I don't think I shall be in for any. Once again, I think there were parts of this show and episodes that I enjoyed. There were times that I laughed. And once again, if it's just like a hangout show that's supposed to be a comedy, I would have been fine with it, but they tried to add the heart and the drama that just didn't land with me for characters that, quite frankly, I just did not care about and did not understand their decision-making process, which is tough for me. So, yeah, ultimately, I'm glad we watched some of it, but I'm not sad. It also, I believe, could have been probably 6 to 8 episodes. I think there's some like fluff in there. Like, how many times I wish someone would do the math on how many times Archie and Katie got together and broke up, and like the will they won't they of that. I think if you condense the episodes, you don't have as much as that and it's a better payoff, in my opinion.
Yeah, watching the trailers for the show, the conceit was great. The actors in it were fantastic. General cinematography, the like overall story, I thought like it had promise, but it was just everything kind of between the lines and the character development, the character decisions just didn't make sense for me. It didn't land. I also didn't think this show was as funny as it, could have been. I think they could have punched up a lot of the jokes and maybe it was just because I just didn't like the characters that I wasn't finding the humor in some of their dialogue and back and forth. But, other shows that Bill Lawrence has done, like Shrinking or Lasso, I felt like it does this so much better than others. And in all honesty, I was kind of surprised this thing got picked up as quickly as it did. But this is a unique thing for HBO. They don't have a lot of these like quick 30-minute comedies, so maybe they're just trying to push more into it. But I would like to see Carrell do other stuff than more of this.
Sure. I think he was fabulous in this role. Like, and you're reminded of how enjoyable he is on a sitcom, essentially. I wonder how much of this is just if you put something in a HBO Sunday night slot, are you just going to have viewers because it's there?
Yeah.
I also wonder whether or not we would have enjoyed it more had we not had to break it down in detail. And then thirdly, if you can binge it in terms of watching multiple episodes where it doesn't feel like it's dragging out like the same decisions between characters. I don't know. Maybe that makes it more watchable. But somewhere out there, someone loves this show, and this is like their number one show, and they clicked rewatch as soon as the finale ended. And
there's a lot of people, by the way, like being on social media, there's a lot of people that love this show. And I always feel weird as like, trying to get people to come into our podcast audience and community and listen to our show. But like, I don't find the affinity that a lot of people on the internet do. But yeah, we are, I don't know if we're in the minority or the majority in terms of the liking of the show, but I think in social media, it does seem like a lot of people do very much enjoy this series.
Tom, we are the majority. I'm going to tell you why. Because you thought the same way that I did, and there's 2 of us, and so 2-0, we're in the majority. Boom.
Touché.
Math. All right. For those of you that are listening to us, you can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. For those of you that don't know, we are currently doing a watch of Widow's Bay, which is on Apple and is fabulous. Very funny. Can't suggest it high enough. I was a little bit scared because it is like a horror comedy and I'm a coward, but we are definitely enjoying that. So continue with us there. If you have future suggestions for shows that are coming up on HBO, Apple, any of the major streamers that you think we might enjoy, please reach out to us. We love suggestions. And Tom, what did I miss?
Yeah, follow us on the socials at Team Binge or at Team Binge Podcast. We're on Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, all the fun ones, Threads. And I would be interested to, like, if you did very much enjoy this show and did follow us through this whole journey, like, definitely let us know, like, what like, was our criticism too hard? Did you kind of like it just for being able to turn the brain off? Because I'm interested if we did come at this a little bit too hard, or if some of the stuff that we said was warranted. I feel like it is, but I would really appreciate the audience that very much enjoyed this to get their 2 cents. And like Julian said, we got a lot of great shows kind of coming up in our pipeline. We've got like Silo season 3 coming back later this summer, along with Ted Lasso season 4 that we'll likely be covering. So we've done some pods on those. So please join us. And then again, Widow's Bay, like Julian said, has been an absolute blast. So please join us for the rest of those.
All right. For Team Binge, I have been Julian.
And cock-a-doodle-doo, I've been Tom. Till next season, everybody? Question mark?